This is what I'm talking about, guys. This weather. Just the day before yesterday, I'm outside in a t-shirt, 75 degrees, working in the garden. And now it is currently 19 degrees and just snowing like crazy. So I can't catch a break. I'd hoped to get back to the cabin and do some stuff. I was hoping to get going on that worm bin to get the cold frame started. But as you can see, this is what I'm left dealing with instead. So we'll see what we can come up with for today. Okay, so as I showed you, it is too nasty to do anything outside that I need to get done today. So I'm left with no choice but to make a video inside. Now, that can sometimes be a bad thing because, I want to sit and talk to you guys about something that may be on my mind that day. And sometimes I have a tendency to piss people off with the things that I talk about. But I feel like they're important, so I share them with you guys. And something that I think is hugely important, and I've made videos on in the past, and those of you who have been around the channel for a while understand that sometimes I get somewhat political, and not really even political, just I like to stand up for my rights and make sure everyone else understands what's happening, because you don't always take the time to read every executive order or every new law or every new bill. Most people don't pay much attention to that. I've got a sick interest that keeps me paying close attention to it, and I almost feel as if it were a duty to make sure everyone else understands it as well. So in the past, I've made videos about the NDAA, or the National Defense Authorization Act. And most of you are probably somewhat familiar with what that is at this point, hopefully. If not, you should be. I'll link to those videos that I've made in the past about that. But having made the recent videos about the Morningland Dairy and what happened there, as far as the government basically coming in and stealing from those people and shutting down their family business, I've also touched on aspects of self-sufficiency being under attack, as far as rainwater collection goes, or gardening, or wood-burning stoves, or your energy, how you decide to create off-grid energy. There's a lot of things going on, and I really feel like self-sufficiency is somewhat under attack by our own government. Now, that being said, I want to talk about Executive Order 13603. You can Google that and read up on it for yourself. This was signed in by Barack Obama on March 16th, 2012. So we're coming up on the 5-year anniversary of this executive order. The purpose was said to delegate authority and address national defense resource policies and programs under the Defense Production Act of 1950. So Obama's National Defense Resources Preparedness Executive Order, it basically does to the country what the 2012 National Defense Authorization Act did to the Constitution, and it completely eviscerates any due process and any judicial oversight for any action by the government deemed in the interest of, quote, national security. So, like the NDAA, this executive order basically puts the government completely above the law, which is never supposed to happen. So just like the NDAA was rooted in the Patriot Act and various other executive orders and congressional bills that ensued to broaden executive power in the, quote, war on terror, so now the executive order is rooted in the the Defense Production Act of 1950. This gives the government powers to mobilize national resources in the event of national emergencies. What does that mean? Basically, what it means is the government has, the government, use that blanket term, has the authority to search, seize anything they say they need to in the interest of national security. So it gives the government powers to mobilize national resources in the event of national emergencies, except now virtually every aspect of American life falls under these ultimately unchallengeable government controls that are exercised by the president and his secretaries at their discretion. So the NDAA in 2012 basically made the United States a battlefield, and it gave the president and his agents the right to seize and arrest any U.S. citizen and detain them indefinitely without charge or trial. So basically, the NDAA, as I've made videos on in the past, allowed any U.S. citizen to be arrested and indefinitely detained without due process, without being charged with anything, without any kind of trial, just because they were suspected of something. And that was signed. That was that was signed by Barack Obama. It sounds ridiculous, but you'll have to look that up for yourself so that you believe it. Because just hearing it from me, it's unbelievable to accept the fact that that is true. But it does. It completely gets rid of any judicial oversight or any due process. I'll say it one more time. The NDAA, the 2012 NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, gives the power to arrest and indefinitely detain any U.S. citizen without charging them or trying them based solely on suspicion from anybody, without any type of due process or any type of judicial oversight. Look that up for yourself. Hopefully you're aware of this situation. And granted, it is designed, or it's said to be designed, to protect us against a potential terrorist or something like that. The fact remains that it gives the government this power to do it to anyone that they see fit. And it's absolutely not right. So in the NDAA, only the president had the authority to abrogate. Abrogate means to take away legitimate freedoms of the U.S. citizens, which is it's like a supreme power designated to the president and his secretaries to run the government itself. So the Secretary of Defense has power over all water resources. The Secretary of Commerce has power over all material services and facilities, including construction materials. So the Secretary of Transportation has power over all forms of civilian transportation. The Secretary of Agriculture has power over food resources and facilities, livestock, plant health resources, and the domestic distribution of farm equipment. The Secretary of Health and Human Services has power over all health resources. And the Secretary of Energy has power over all forms of energy. That's a lot to take in. If you didn't quite get that, slide the little dial at the bottom of their back and re-listen to that, because it is in there. I'm not making this up. I'm reading this directly from the executive order itself. So the executive order stipulates that in the event of conflict between the secretaries using these powers, the president will determine the resolution through his national security team. So the NDAA also gave the government the right to abrogate any due process against a U.S. citizen. The new executive order gives the government, through the Secretary of Labor, the right to proactively mobilize U.S. citizens for labor as the government deems necessary, and to coordinate with the Secretary of Defense to maintain data to coordinate the nation's work needs in relation to national defense. Okay, again, that's a lot of mumbo jumbo, but what it means is we can take any U.S. citizen, any group of citizens, anyone we want, force them into labor in any project that the government deems necessary in under the guise of national defense. So at any point, the government is allowed to come take you from your home and say, hey, you know how to dig ditches. We need ditches dug here because of national defense. Let's go right now. You have no choice. This is what this executive order has allowed to take place. Now, okay, so as far as these things that they're allowed to take and seize and take control over at any time they see fit, mind you, this comes directly from the Defense Production Act of 1950. So Part 8, under General Provisions, Section 801, okay? In addition to the definitions in Section 702 of the Act, 50 U.S.C. 2152, the following definitions apply throughout this order. So here you go. This is a drop in the bucket as to what this allows. Part A, civil transportation includes movement of persons and property by all modes of transportation in interstate, intrastate, or foreign commerce within the United States, its territories and possessions, and the District of Columbia, and related public storage and warehousing ports, services, equipment facilities, such as transportation, carrier shop, and repair facilities. Civil transportation also shall include direction, control, and coordination of civil transportation capacity, regardless of ownership. Civil transportation shall not include transportation owned or controlled by the Department of Defense, use of petroleum and gas pipelines and coal slurry pipelines used only to supply energy production facilities directly. That's A. B. Energy means all forms of energy, including petroleum, gas, both natural and manufactured, electricity, solid fuels, including all forms of coal, coke, coal chemicals, coal liquefaction, and coal gasification, solar, wind, and other types of renewable energy, atomic energy, and the production, conservation, use, control, and distribution, including pipelines, of all of these forms of energy. Right there under that, this allows the government absolute control and final say over any type of renewable energy, solar, wind, etc., anything you decide to use, any type of production, conservation, use, control, and distribution of said energy. Your federal government has absolute control over every bit of that, should they decide to take it. No constitutional rights allocated to you. This is just, if we want it, we can take it. Sounds a lot like martial law, but I won't go throwing terms around. I'll allow you to make your own observations and decide for yourself what this means to you. But these are actual federal documents that you can search and find for yourself. Again, this is part of the Defense Production Act of 1950. Look it up. It's part of Executive Order 13603, part of the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act. We'll move on to C. C. Farm equipment means equipment, machinery, and repair parts manufactured for use on farms in connection with the production or preparation for market use of food resources. D. Fertilizer means any product or combination of products that contain one or more of the elements nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium for use as a plant nutrient. E. Food resources means all commodities and products, simple, mixed, or compound, or complements to such commodities or products that are capable of being ingested by either human beings or animals, irrespective of other uses to which such commodities or products may be put at all stages of processing from the raw commodity to the products thereof in vendable form or for human animal consumption. Food resources, quote, also means potable water packaged in commercially marketable containers, all starches, sugars, vegetable and animal or marine fats and oils, seed, cotton, hemp, and flax fiber, but does not mean any such material after it loses its identity as an agricultural commodity or agricultural product. All of that means they have absolute control over food, food production, your farm animals, your cows, your chickens, anything you're growing in your garden. The government has absolute control over it. That is part E of Part 8 and General Provisions, Section 801 of the Defense Production Act of 1950. We'll move on to F. Food resources. Facilities means plants, machinery, vehicles, including on-farm, and other facilities required for the production, processing, distribution, and storage, including cold storage of food resources, and for the domestic distribution of farm equipment and fertilizer, excluding transportation thereof. G. Functions, including powers, duties, authority, responsibilities, and discretion. H. Head of each agency engaged in procurement for the national defense means the heads of the Departments of State, Justice and Interior, and Homeland Security, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the Central Intelligence Agency, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, the General Services Administration, and all other agencies with authority delegated under Section 201 of this order. You can check out Section 201 also. Another thing that the government has absolute control over in Section I, health resources, meaning drugs, biological products, medical devices, materials, facilities, health supplies, services, and equipment required to diagnose, mitigate, or prevent the impairment of, improve, treat, cure, or restore the physical or mental health conditions of the population. And now, what that's saying is, any of those things, the government has absolute final say and control over, should they decide to exercise that control. This is basically an end run around the Constitution that allows you protections of your own private property to do so as you see fit. The government can step in and take this away from you. So this is very important that everyone realizes that this exists, because when someone like me tries to explain to you that and not necessarily you, meaning the subscribers that watch these videos, but the public in general, when someone says to you that the government wants to take your ability to collect rainwater, or the government wants to keep you from growing lettuce in your front yard, or the government wants to say you can't have a windmill on your property, as ridiculous as that sounds to you, don't think that people are lying or making this up when they mention this to you, because the government actually does have the ability to do all of this to you on a federal level. Now, a lot of these issues, as far as rain collection and growing a garden in your front yard, things like that, are handled locally under zoning regulations and local townships and things like that. These things can actually happen at the federal level as well. So I think I'll let this go for now at this point, and I'll just urge you to. I mean, it's nothing to be paranoid about. It's just something to be aware of. It kind of shows the bigger picture as a whole on a federal level, the absolute power that we have allowed our own government to have over us, and when we start worrying about things. Like things that our new president is doing, as far as getting rid of executive orders that exist and doing away with things that seem unconstitutional at such a small level, like something like Obamacare. I feel like the general public as a whole is duped into believing that this is such an important thing, that our new president is saving us by getting rid of Obamacare and allowing insurance to be sold across state lines. I mean, that's great. But we have much, much bigger issues that no one is going to address, that are going to continue to be there, because in the end, in my own opinion only, Democrat or Republican, Obama or Trump, the end goal is the same across the board. They may have different opinions as far as immigration is concerned, or gay marriage, or abortion, the hot button topics that people tend to care about. But while you're paying attention to these things that mean very little in the end, I shouldn't say it like that. Immigration is an important topic, but there are much bigger fish to fry, I guess I'm saying. Forget about Obamacare and forget about this executive order or that. Look at the ones that are actually going completely against our Constitution and taking away every bit of our freedoms and rights that we have, and can be put into place at any time the government feels like they should. So I guess let's see the bigger picture. And it starts small at a local level. We cannot allow our local governments to continue to violate our constitutional rights, be it taking our cheese from our dairy farm and destroying it, or telling us that we can't put a barrel under our gutter and collect our rainwater, or telling us that we're not allowed to have solar panels on our roof. We've got to stand up for our own rights and start fighting back against us and defending them before they're completely gone and we have no option and no ability to do so. This is going to get real deep if I keep going, so I'm going to let it go at that for now. Hopefully I didn't piss anyone off too bad. Like I said, when I'm stuck in the house and I want to make a video and talk to you guys about something I'm passionate about, sometimes it turns into something like this. And this has happened in the past for you new subscribers. Every once in a while, a video like this will come out, and I'm okay with it. This video will get some thumbs down, and it will get some of those crazy comments from folks about what a conspiracy theorist I am, and that's fine with me. Take everything I said at face value and do your own research. There's too many people that just believe everything they see or hear on Facebook or the cable news networks that they just believe because they heard it. Do the research for yourself. You can go to the WhiteHouseArchives.gov and you can look at all of these documents yourself. Executive Order 13603, the National Defense Authorization Act, and the Defense Production Act of 1950. Just take a look for yourself and make your own opinion. But thanks for listening, everybody. I apologize for the pictures on the screen rather than, you know, anything else. But really, the only thing I could have showed you was me talking to you and reading some executive orders to you. So it wouldn't have been any better. Obviously, I'm still a little bit sick. You don't want to sit and stare at my nose running while I read to you. So that's it for today, guys. I hope I haven't alienated too many of you. Too bad. And come back tomorrow for another video that will be completely different than this one. So I hope the rest of your day goes great, and we'll see you again tomorrow.